Welcome to Writer Therapy, a space for serious writers to talk openly about creativity, workflow, balance, and everything in between. Join us for casual conversations about craft, the writing life, and why we keep coming back to the page. No matter where you are in your writing, you're welcome here. This is Writer Therapy. In this episode, we'll be talking to Claus Holm, author of Tempest Investigations, Between Above and Below, Lover's Moon, The Tucson Time Traveler, and many more.
Are you Danish or are you American or?
I'm Danish.
Okay.
I used to be married to an American, and I spent a lot of time in the U.S. When I was married to her.
In San Francisco?
No, actually, despite the fact that I have written 3 books that take place in San Francisco, no, her family was from Arizona, in Tucson,
beautiful.
Arizona, which is why my 3rd book was called The Tucson Time Traveler.
Okay, cool.
And takes place almost exclusively in Tucson. No, I can sound Danish, like most Danish people when they speak English. This is how we sound.
Right.
But kind of like a Minnesota thing going on. But
Yeah.
I've learned so far that if I sound Danish, people won't believe that I can write books in English.
Yeah, because so I listened to Tempest Investigations, a couple episodes, and you wouldn't. Was it originally written in Danish and then you translate?
No, it was written in English.
Yeah. I mean, it's seamless. I have a lot of Italians in my family, and I'll look at something they write, and you're like, okay, they're still thinking in Italian.
I can
You know what
do
I mean?
that on occasion. Yeah. I'll throw in the Danishism, and that's why I have an editor, so will catch me out. We're like, you can't say that. Sorry. It happens, it's just the same way the other way, because I taught myself how to think in English when I was married to my ex-wife. So at some point I had to learn how to switch back.
Right.
And learn how to think in Danish again when I wrote. And when I did the first novel in the fantasy epic series that I did, the Shadow series, it was like, this is so wrong. I should be writing in English.
So, tell me, let's get an overview of your career, because you've written a lot of books, and so tell me, a bit about your career. Like, when did you start? What have you, your first books?
So I did 2 things. My debut were these 2 here.
Okay.
This one is in Danish, and this one is in English. And I started doing it because that was right after I got divorced, and I was really having a bad place in my life, and I had to find something to hold on to. And I always loved to write. And so I started doing that. I buried myself in writing, and I started writing all these short stories. And suddenly I had Dreams and Awakenings, which is 29 different short stories.
Awesome.
Quite short ones. But it really pulled me back from the edge of the precipice. I credit that book by saying if I hadn't written that book, I wouldn't be alive today, because I was so miserable. But it pulled me back, creating that thing and holding it in my hands, saying, this is something I made. I'm not useless. I'm not, a way that I had been sadly trained to believe at that point from my ex-wife. I could do this. And I was so proud of it. And I continued. And I did this, which was called Between Above and Below, which are longer stories, a bit more personal stories as well. Mm-hmm. Like one of them has a lot of it from my personal story in it, but much deeper, much more character driven, much more like, okay, I outgrew that sort of Twilight Zone way of writing that I did in the first book, which is all like little tiny short stories with a twist ending.
Okay. Yeah. So that was, what was like the theme, the connecting tissue for the stories? If there was one for the first book.
Wasn't really one, except that they were all super dark. Like,
okay, yeah.
They're all like twisted in some weird Twilight Zone way. There's always like that's how it ends kind of thing. Whereas Between Above and Below are way longer. They're in chapters. They're more like novellas, 4 novellas in one book. And that was my way of trying to write a book like Stephen King's Different Seasons.
Yeah,
which was like stories that are not scary in the same way that my first ones were, which are deeper, more about humans, about what happens between people. Mm-hmm. And then there's a bit of a supernatural thing, just because I couldn't help it. There's one of the stories that has some supernatural in it. Couldn't help it. But that was like the start everything, and then I did the Tucson Time Traveler.
Okay,
Oops,
nice.
there we go. Which is again back to the shorter ones, but science fiction themed, time travel themed. And they all take place more or less in and around the Tucson area, which I knew very well at the time. People who are local say, "Oh yeah, I know that mall." Or
So is it that is it the short stories are like through the time travelers' journeys, or is that one of the stories?
Actually, that's just one of the stories. The last one is the Tucson Time Traveler. It's various kinds of time traveling, both seen from the receiving point, seen from the traveler's point, seen from if you only travel in your mind, or if you cast someone else's mind back and you're possessed by that mind. Oh, cool. There's all sorts of different twists of that, but it all has something to do with time travel in some way or another.
I love it. That's great. So you're like, exploring the theme. Like time travel can be
I like to do that.
Science, not fiction in a sense, or it can be like a mode of thinking and, okay, I love it.
Like there's a story, for instance, in it called Tamagotchi, which is about a family who recreates their deceased son.
Okay, wow.
After he passes away in the first chapter, he's just stung by a killer bee, which were big in Arizona at the time I was there. And he passes away, and so they gather up all the information. They have all the films and recordings and everything like that, and then they create sort of a kind of a time travel, version of him. They form a picture that can move around in the house.
Oh wow!
But he's all he'll live, he'll talk, he'll react to what they say, like a Tamagotchi would. But he's still limited by what they have, and he will never grow up. He will never travel forward.
Right.
It's
like heartbreak.
So they end up switching him off because they realize that they can't live like this, and they love him, but it's not him anymore, even though he looks like him. So that kind of sort of it plays with the theme. It has something of the time travel because it's like you can't actually travel forward anymore. You're stuck in one place.
Yeah, that's true. I like the idea that they're only, his only expression is what they thought of him.
It's very one-sided.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have his mind.
I love it.
Very like super dark, but super super interesting when you go to it. So then I did this, which was the Between Above and Below in Danish, which I translated myself and rewrote it. And then I did these two. This is the same book, both in Danish and English. Lover's Moon. And in Danish, it's called Månen over Østerbro, which means the moon over east side. Mm-hmm. And that was a love story that I came up with on the fly. I've always believed that you should write whatever you want. It doesn't matter what kind of thing. You shouldn't be stuck to a specific genre or specific anything like that. You should just write whatever you like. And I got this idea for 12 stories that sort of intertwine and weave in and out between each other just on a regular night in Copenhagen. And there's 12 different people, and they all feel love in some way. Nice. That can be romantic love, it can be parental love, it can be divine love, it can be lost love, pet love, all sorts of things, but they all love someone or something in some way. And then they go in and out between each other, a bit like if you've ever seen the movie called Love Actually, or Crash, I think it's called Crash, where you have the same people going in and out through the storyline, and they have different places. So one person will go into a bodega and they'll buy something, and then the guy who runs the bodega will be the main character in the next story. Yeah. Another customer will come in and they'll switch to him.
There's a series like that's called, I know only one of them, it's like Parija Tame, and it's basically a bunch of shorts by a bunch of different directors. But I love that style. Like I think they were doing that a lot in like the early 2000s, right? Or like 2005 kind of. And I love that in a book. That's fantastic.
It was a fun way of doing it. Originally I've pitched it as a cooperative project with another writer. And I said, well, why don't you, I'll write a story, then you write a story, you decide which character you want to use for the next one. I'll take one from yours. We'll switch back and forth. And they said no. And so I said, screw it. I'll write it myself then. I'll just catch it by myself. It's quite fun. And the crazy thing is, I have written a lot of books show you more in a second, but I have never written a book that has gotten this kind of spread that this book has. It is, to this date, the one book that sells most consistently. Like every time I get, money from the publishers, I can see someone bought 3-4 copies of it.
Oh, wow.
Every time. And I don't know why, because it's not an exciting book like the other ones. There's no action, there's no thrills, there's no scares, there's nothing like that. It's all just a soft romance, but people love it.
I'll watch anything like my wife will watch, but she won't watch. I'm like rewatching all the James Bond movies or watching the old ones for the first time. And I'm not gonna get her to watch that, but I'll read like any book she recommends. I'll read it. I'll watch anything she watched. So it's love's like a universal language. And
it is, yeah. I think that might be it.
It's a great encouragement to like the romance writers out there, and even the men who want to write romances. Just go for it.
Just go for it. Yeah, if you got a great idea, go for it. Use it.
I love it.
Who cares what people think about it? And it might be fun. It was fun to write this. Like to be completely different from what you normally did. And I should get a funny story about that book is that the cover is actually a picture that I had a photographer take it, and she was sick. This was during COVID, and she was sick, and she on that night that we in Copenhagen, we had what's called a supermoon over the city, and it was right over her apartment. She said, "You know what? I don't care if I'm sick. I'm going to go out. I'm going to take that one picture. I'm going to go back up to my apartment." And she took it, and that made the cover. And it's just an absolutely gorgeous picture. It was like this. It spreads all around to the back. Oh, wow. This is just one little tiny part of Copenhagen that she took a picture of with the moon over it.
Your covers are fantastic. In these groups, I see a lot of like cover art. It's a lot of hit or miss, but yours are all really. So do you have a designer you work with?
I've had several designers actually, and the first ones were made by the same guy. The next I'm going to show was also made by that guy. He's called Stefan Nielsen, and he is amazing, great graphic artist. Doesn't do much anymore though, but he was doing it very well for my first books. And then I got some new ones, and I worked with other ones. When I publish traditionally, I usually go with the ones that they like,
right?
They have in house. But when I decided myself, I always go out and say, I need someone who can do this. This particular image. What can you do? And someone will say, "Oh, well, I can do that. Great, awesome. Let's try it."
I love it.
So I'll show you these next three. We'll show them one at a time. But this is my probably most internationally celebrated, and that's the Tempest Investigations.
That's right.
This is part 1, season 1, season 2, and season 3.
And so when you write it as a season, how does that work? So did you write it in the book as episodes?
Yeah, I do. I originally it was because it was starting off like, have you ever read fan fiction?
Yeah.
For a show. Yeah. So if I wrote a story that takes place on the Enterprise in Star Trek, I wouldn't need to spend precious words explaining to you how the bridge of the Enterprise looks. Because you already know what the bridge of the Enterprise looks like. Right. And I thought, this is actually quite brilliant. Why don't we write a book, a regular novel, but write it like fan fiction? Mm-hmm. Because I don't need to explain to you what San Francisco looks like necessarily. Right. You probably already know. Or you can imagine what this private investigator looks like.
Well, you even you painted it well. Like I've a few chapters in, and I already like have a sense of how he looks and how the street feels. It's already like, because it seemed to me that you're going for it was the hard boiled kind of vibe, and you're already there.
Yeah, the first one's probably the most hard boiled of the three. Mm-hmm. But that was how I started. I think, well, this is television in my head. I'm seeing it like television, so I'm writing it like television. And so there are episodes. First book has 4 episodes, and the 2 and 3 has 6 episodes each. And that was just like how the feel of having a series like Buffy or Supernatural, where you'd have the big bad, and you'd have the arc that goes through the storyline, but you also have the individual stories that takes place, and you can take a break and just read that one, but there's still something going on in the background. That's how I wanted it to be structured.
Yeah, that's cool.
I took a break between each one and wrote something else, because every time I finished it, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm done with this story. And I'll only come back, I'll only renew the show if I get a good idea.
Yeah.
If I get a good idea, if something that works for me. And then I did that twice. And after the third one, I said, okay, well, kind of done with that. It ends in a very satisfying place, but currently I'm writing season 4.
That's right. Yeah,
5 years later. Yeah. So you never say never. You come back, do it again. But like I said, I had some breaks in between, and in the breaks, I wrote these. These are the Danish fantasy epics that I wrote. These are here. The first one's called The Battle of Danubris. This is called The Battle in Dustor, and this is called The Battle for the Imperial City. So those are Tolkien style epic fantasy kind of thing. Yeah. They're only available in Danish currently. I have translated the first one myself, but it is a hell of a project to translate a 300-page fantasy novel. And I have a different job, and I'd much rather write something new than I'd go back and edit something of my old stuff.
Could you ever, I'm not sure translate it? Do you have audiobooks for all your books, or
not all my books yet? I have Danish audiobooks for the trilogy. I have the Tempest trilogy in audio. I have the new book with my latest one, which is this one here, which is a pirate novel.
Beautiful.
That one's in Danish audiobook as well. I read that one myself. And I have the Danish version of Lover's Moon in audio as well. The guy I'm working with with the Tempest stories, not the one you're hearing in your ear when you're doing the first season, but he does season 2 and 3. He's called Spencer Dillahay, and he's an amazing audiobook reader. He and I have a plan to launch a new podcast where we will do a bunch of my short stories.
Awesome.
So eventually, most of them will probably be out at some point.
The pirate book is a series, correct?
It's a version 2. Yeah, I just literally 2 weeks ago, I finished the first draft of the second book. The first one I wrote with a co-author, and we planned the storyline from start to finish of both books. So we know what happened in it, and sort of the big beats of the story. And then I wrote the second book myself. Okay. So, and that's it comes to an end at the end of the second book.
So, you've been both. You mentioned you were traditionally published and self-published. Is that correct? So by traditional, is it is that like with an agent and like you find they find a publisher?
No, we don't do agents in Denmark.
Oh, okay. So how does that work over there?
You send it to a publishing house and you say, "Hi, I'm an author. Would you like to publish this?"
Okay.
And then they publish it if they like it. Obviously, with the amount of people writing, the competition is fierce.
Okay.
Denmark publishes a lot, but not barely enough to scratch the surface. I'm in some Danish Facebook groups for authors, and there are so many budding authors who wants to say, "Oh, I want to write, this or that book. I'm 18 years old and I have all these ideas." And it's like, great, that's awesome. Write everything you can.
Yeah.
Don't hold your breath for the first couple of years, because you will need some experience before you get in, and you will probably get rejected several times.
So it sounds like you don't have to go through, like in America, we have to basically hunt down an agent and be approved by an agent to even go there. So they cut out the middleman there, it sounds like. But it's the same sort of approval process in a sense.
It is. In America, if you got sold to a publishing house, you would get an advance from the publishing house. They would buy your book from you. Like, here you go. Yeah. Now we own the book, and you get some money. Doesn't happen here. You get royalties every year, which is usually 30% of the book for an ebook and 20% for a paper book.
And is it on you to market it and all that?
The publishing house will usually do something like tiny bits, like Facebook posts and stuff like that. But everything else is up to you.
Okay.
And then once a year, we get library money, which is basically the Danish government paying you for the right to put your book in libraries all over the country. And that is counted by some weird eclectic system. You saw how many books I wrote, right? And then this year here, I just got it a few weeks ago, and I got, I think it was 13,000 kroner. So that's like $2,000, a little under $2,000 for a whole year.
Okay.
So that's not something you get fat off.
You moved on to self-publishing from there?
I've actually gone back and forth. The last one here, the first volume of the Pirate series, was published by a traditional publisher because that was what my co-author really wanted to do, and we went with traditional publishing. But we're not going to renew that deal, and so I'm publishing the second one myself as a self-publisher. And I'm sick and tired of the publishing world, because every time I publish it, I feel like the book isn't the one I wanted to publish. I've had editors working with me ever since I started. I had professional editors who I paid money to edit my books. Mm-hmm. And every time I go to a traditional publishing house, the editor that sits in their little room and works, they have an agenda to publish it specifically the way that the publishers want it.
I see.
So they change not the story as much. They'll comment on the story. I'll say this, just like any editor would say, there's a hole here, or this needs more padding or whatever, or less padding. But actually, all three times I've done this, there's been a linguistic change in the books where they've gone in and said, I don't like the way you say this, so we'll change it, or you should change it. And the last one especially, there were some things I really disagreed with, where they said, well, this should be more pedagogical. This should be more descriptive, so the reader understands what it's like. Like the story takes place on a pirate ship, obviously, and it takes place with his two new people, two young ones coming on, Talia and Zhang, and they come onto the ship to serve us as pirates for the first time. Or Gentlemen of Fortune, as they like to be called. That's the title of the book, too. It's called Gentlemen of Fortune. But one of the things that struck me was that they said, well, at one point, one of them is told, head up to the crow's nest.
Right.
And then the editor said, well, you have to add, that's what we call the lookout on a sailing ship.
Yeah, that's okay.
Why?
What?
Why should I do that? The reader can learn from the fact that the guy climbs up. You learn what this means, but no, it has to be there. And I think it's because I've heard it with TV shows as well. Matt Damon came out and talked about it at one point when he said that the scripts for the series he was in had to be dumbed down, and they always have to describe what's just happened, to recap it so that the reader wasn't sitting with his phone, and doing something else. Oh, that's what happened. Oh, okay. But I don't write like that. I really don't.
Because as I write, I find that, the advice seems to be respect your readers and respect the fact that they're respect their intelligence, and that's better writing. So I can see why you wouldn't want to. And have you liked the self-publishing process, or is it a whole kind of different grind, or is it?
I love it. I love doing it myself. I love finding the exact people I want to work with for this book. If I want to change cover artist, I'll change cover artist. If I want to change editor, I'll change editor. I pay them to do a job, and they deliver their product to me, and I can do it with that. And I love that. That's the way I want to publish.
You essentially work as like a contractor for your book. You're hiring different subcontractors to do different jobs. Okay, interesting. That's encouraging because I'm deep in editing my book, so I'm way in the beginning stages, and to me, I don't want to bother self-publishing. Like I'm a fraud if I do. I think a lot of writers think you're not legit if you're self-published, but I'm seeing that in these groups and just the way people talk, it's life is like the grass is seriously greener on the self-publishing side.
It is, and that was then, man. This was then. This is now. Things change every year. Things change more, and true. When I did my first book in Kindle Publishing or Amazon Self-Publish or whatever it was called back then, it was cheaper, and it was probably a little different. But today, 10, 11 years later, things have changed. Yeah, and you can do self-published books that look just as professional.
How do you balance, real life and writing life? How do you? I mean, your real life is writing life, I think. But how do you balance the two?
My real life is I mean, I'm married, remarried, and I have a bonus son. and I spend a lot of time with them, obviously. I also have a 40-hour-a-week job in the Danish municipal government, and I sit and do stuff there. So I write in vacations and on the weekend, and I balance it like that. I'll on Sundays, for instance, my wife will go work out for a couple hours, and so I will write in those hours where I have privacy. I'll sometimes go on a break, take a weekend where I don't do anything else, and I'll just sit down and write. We just took a trip to a little cottage, little summer house here in the Easter. We took 3 days, and then we sat in different rooms, and I sat and wrote, and she did some other stuff in the other room. That's how I try to balance it, but it's it frustrates me sometimes that I don't have enough time,
right,
to really do it every day the way I wanted to do it. The first couple of books I wrote, I was unemployed when I did that, and I did write every day, but I just don't have that time to do it. I can't sit for 8 hours at work staring into a screen and then go back home and do it again.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Do you have any advice to kind of new writers like me and people out there like in the beginning of their publishing journey and all that?
I want to say that you should find a way that works for you. And you shouldn't listen to a lot of advice that writers actually give out. Like, for instance, I remember hearing that, you should write 1,500 words at a time.
Right.
But no, if it doesn't work for you, then don't do it. Don't squeeze it out. If you can only get 1,000, then get 1,000. Some books I've also only got 1,000 out per time. Sometimes I did 1,500, 2,000. Find the one that works for you. And sometimes it can be harder, and don't be ashamed of that. I should say read a lot. I like to say read a lot and write a lot, because if you don't read, you won't be a good writer. You have to study how other people do composition, how they do characters, and preferably not just one. Like, I read a lot of Stephen King, but I don't just read Stephen King.
Right.
I read a lot of stuff. And I, just like you, I also take, if my wife comes and says, this is an amazing book, you should read that. Great, I'll try to read that if it works for me. But don't just get stuck. Read something and write something as much as possible. Keep a book with you at all times, so you always have something. If you're sitting on the train or, in the waiting room at the doctor's or something, pull out a book instead of your phone and read some things. That's good. It's good for you.
So, so I started this school community writer therapy as like a way for, because there's a lot of great Facebook groups. I hold no grudge towards them. There's like 600,000 people in there. So when I look at it, it's a lot of information at once. So I created this group for, serious writers, like people who really take it seriously. To me, it's like I realized one day, it's if I want to make some sort of a career out of this or just actually end up with a book, I have to take it seriously. I had this PlayStation there. It's just dusty. I don't use it anymore. It's like my nights are writing. Like, I have all these guitar. I never play music. I'm just writing. Like, that's all I have time to do now. All my free time goes to that. So I think of that as a serious writer. You're a serious writer. How could a community like this serve you? What could I do to serve you?
Probably I would use it for like bouncing ideas off of people. Like I'd say, okay, I have this idea for a story. What would you think worked with that? Would this work? Would this be silly? Would it be, too out there, too overdone? And I'm not scared. A lot of people are scared that people will steal their ideas, but I'm like, fuck it. It will never be the same anyway. So that's something I could see using it. And I've been using one of the Danish groups for that as well, talking about it. And I like the way that you have this online community thing where you're going with joined up writing, where you say, hey, let's all write together at the same time. Doesn't really fit into my schedule.
Yeah.
But I like the idea, and I think it's great to say, well, this will keep me stoked. If you have a hard time getting started, well, then I have to start at 12 o'clock because all the others going to be on, and they're going to see that I'm here.
Yeah, it even helps me get to my desk. Yeah, it's helping me get to my desk, like, right, because I'm like, well, I can't have this live event and not be there, So
That's a good idea. I like that very much.
I want to thank you, first of all, for joining me. And I think I'd love to talk to you again and get into like sort of the nitty-gritty, the technical end of it.
Be happy to do another one again. No worries.
All right, great. Yeah, man, thank you so much. It was so great talking.
Thank you.
You can learn more about today's guest in the description and show notes. If you're a writer looking for a focused, encouraging, and authentic creative community, join us at school.com/writertherapy. Whether you're outlining your first idea, deep into revisions, published, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next session.